Hello everyone, this is Shokora Zouheikyoku aka chocomint, and welcome back to our Let's Play of Meeting in the Flesh. Now we will move on to our last suitor, which is an owner of a honeybee shop, and we will learn about his story and help him out at the shop. I wonder what is interesting about him. As the last route, we have some interesting story to learn about already, so I'm sure this one is going to be extra special. Let's go. It's too bad, but I don't want to risk delaying anyone's delivery. I feel a little bad, but I think it would be best to turn him down. I don't want to risk being late on any deliveries. Sorry, Bratton. My schedule's a little tight today, so now's not the best time. Maybe I can meet you after my route's over? Bratton's ears are usually perked up, but they tilt down at that. His tail also drooping to peek out between his legs. It's obvious he's still trying to sound upbeat.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
I do worry about it. Are you sure? I'll be happy to come back here after I'm done with my route. I just don't want to keep anyone waiting. Bratton considers that for a moment before shaking his head. His tails resume its gentle wagging.
Yeah, it's fine. On second thought, I guess I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be showing you anyway. So I'll get back to you if I get clear for it.
Oh, I had just now noticed the flap, the tongue poking out of his mouth. That's cute. That'll be great. Thanks for the invitation though, Bratton.
No problem.
He reaches out a massive paw and gives me a gentle bat to the shoulder.
You be careful on your route now, alright?
We do. The slick up damp brown underfoot gives way to firm rock beds as we near the edge of the park. Oh yeah, here. I've still been holding Bratton's soul bucket and hold it out for him to take.
Right, thanks. Good luck on the rest of your route.
Thanks, I'll see you later. I tighten the bundle over my shoulder to make sure it's firmly in place, then head up at a steady jog. Halfway down the block, I turn to glance over my shoulder and catch sight of Bratton's fluffy tail slipping back into the foliage of the park. I can't help wondering what it was that Bratton wanted to show me. Part of me feels like I may have missed something big. I mean, you missed something big indeed, but we already experienced this, so it's alright. But for now, I have to focus on my job. My next delivery is a good few blocks away, so I turn the corner and ram up into a steady gallop. But at least I managed to mostly catch up with my usual schedule, even if I can feel my legs starting to ache a little. I've managed to stay ahead of schedule somehow, though not by a huge margin. I should be able to finish my route on time. Reaching back, I test the weight of my bundle with my hands, trying to gauge how much time I would need to deliver all of these before the end of the day. There aren't too many, and I should be able to get to them all in time as long as I rush a little bit. But they're also not terribly close together, and I know my base slows as I grow tired near the end of the day. I don't have a lot of time to spare. On the other hand, this feels like something important, even if it's only a small favor that Nurse asked of me. The fact that it is coming from someone so quiet and self-sufficient lends that simple request extra weight. What should I do? Well, the last time we didn't have a lot of time, so we couldn't help. This time we have some time, so let's help out a bit. Help Nyargh out for a bit, and not apologize and get going. I think it would be best if I spare a little time to help Nyargh out. Brian, in part, makes the decision for me. If I stay, my schedule will certainly be tight, but I know that it's not beyond my abilities. I know my delivery pace, and I'm well aware of what I'm capable of. If I use the excuse of a tight schedule to say no to Nyargh here, I know I'll feel a little embarrassed about it later. After all, if Nyargh is asking me to help him at this very important moment, I should do what I can to help him, especially if I know it's within my capabilities. I make the mistake of taking a deep breath. The dizzying scent of honey makes my head spin, and I'm frozen for a moment before I can gather my thoughts. I shake my head, take a shallower breath, and then nod firmly. Alright, I can stay for a bit. If Nyargh has eyes, I think he'll be blinking at me. As is, His own movements paused for a second. His tentacles caught halfway through their actions before abruptly resuming, as if Nyargh wants to hide his surprise and hesitation.
Are you sure?
Of course. You might have to coach me on what to do, but I'm happy to help with whatever I can. I smile as I take off my bundle and store it off to the side beneath the counter, where it hopefully won't get trembled. Then I pull back the roomy folds on my cloak to free my hands. It's warm in here. I will need to be so covered up, and I don't want anything to hinder my movements. Nyargh looks like he needs all the help he can get, so I'll like to be as useful as possible. What should I do? One of Nyargh's mouths licks his lips, and I hear the sound of several throats clearing. Can you start by packaging up those bottles? A tentacle gestures at a shelf stacked with bottles of honey. A bowl of pre-cut fabric pieces and a big roll of twine occupies a nearby table. I flash Nyargh a grin, feeling the raw skin on my face crinkle from the gesture. It comes off slightly saturating, but it feels rare for Nyargh to ever seem pressured, so I want to be reassuring. Leave it to me! I turn towards the shelf without waiting for a response, moving a big armful of bottles to the table so I have everything easily within reach. But faintly, I think I hear Nyargh grunt. Thanks. The word ends up being a little harder than I expected. My hands are big and rough and calloused, perfect for fighting perches on the rough streets and spending long hours at a steady gallop. But I'm less used to work like this. The twine, especially, turns out to be a challenge. Wrapping the bottles in fabric is easy enough, but tying the twine up into neat ribbons is difficult. The first few packages I hand over to Nyargh take a little longer than I like, and I notice Nyargh sparing 2 tentacles to wrap a few bottles himself in order to keep pace with the orders coming in. When each package takes me 2 or 3 tries to tie a rubber ribbon, I can feel frustration starting to seep through me. It must show in my actions, because after finishing up another package, Nyargh briefly lays a tentacle over my hand. You're doing fine. It's harder if you rush. Nyargh's voice is a low rumble, finishing up with a click of his teeth. It's neither gentle nor quiet, fighting to be heard over the din in the store. Still, the way his tentacle passed on my wrist once, twice before returning to work is calming. It helps me figure out how to approach this work. Focus harder on the work or take a deep breath and calm down. Yeah, it's better to listen to his advice. Last Nyargh said, rushing won't solve anything. I need to calm down. Eyes closed, I take in a slow, deep breath. Breathing in slowly like this, the sweet scent of honey flows into and over me like a warm blanket, settling heavily over my flickering nerves. It helps me calm down immediately. Alright. I open my eyes and look towards Nyargh, giving him a small nod. He's already back to focusing on his own work, but I think I spot a pair of lips quirking into a slight smile at my response. I think I can handle it. Thanks. I think I'm getting used to the work. It should be easier once I fall into a nice rhythm. As I return to focusing on the task at hand, even the murmurs from the crowd eventually fade into a low buzz in the distance. After a while, my hands start moving automatically. Pick up a bottle, wrap it in fabric, bring the twine around it, tie up a neat ribbon. Relaxed by Nyargh's advice and the sweet scent in the air, I find myself working peacefully, my mind wandering comfortably. I even find the time to soothe a straight bee that comes bumbling up to rub against my side. Nyargh doesn't have to tend to packaging bottles after a while, leaving the task to me so he can focus on tending to the customers. Despite the bustle of customers, the atmosphere of the store is warm and comfortable, and I find myself feeling right at home. At some point, a couple of bees had wandered over to inspect me, then fallen asleep at my side. I can feel the fuzzy bodies vibrate slightly with their rapid breaths, the presence cushioning warm and soft around me. Ooh, sounds nice. Absorbed in the moment, I almost lose track of time. It's a gentle touch to the shoulder that grabs my attention. and I look up to see Nyargh turn towards me.
Phil, are you alright on time?
Oh! I glance up toward the clock hanging on the wall behind Nyargh, his feelers ticking away gently with each second. I should leave soon. I'll just finish up what I was doing. I just have a few more of these left to do.
Actually, Phil,
I'll just wrap up another bottle and batch of fabric when the low hum of Nyargh's voice gives me pause.
you can leave the wrapping to me. But would you mind wrapping me more bottles from the shelf over there?
He's in the middle of tending to a customer, gently swaddling a gyro of bottles in a large square of fabric to serve as a makeshift bag. One tentacle points over my back, towards a shelf against the wall that's neatly stocked with bottles upon bottles of honey. It's only on second glance that I realize the stock of bottles behind the counter is running low. Business must have been booming in the time that I was lost to my work. Sure thing.
Thanks.
I clamber to my feet, making sure not to knock anything over as I slip out from behind the counter. The ground's mostly turned down, allowing me to move between people more easily as I make my way towards the shelf. And I hike the folds of my cloak up past my elbows once more, just to make sure they don't get in the way. What looks to be a small family is looking over the shelf when I approach it, and I excuse myself as I step past them. The jostling of glass bottles catches the attention of a small child that brought along, and I look over when I feel eyes on me, realizing then that the child is staring at me. They look awfully displeased, wide mouth fluttering into a thin line with just a beak of fangs poking through. Can I help you? I smile a little at the child, just enough to seem friendly without wrinkling the raw skin on my face so hard that buzz seeps through. The child seems unimpressed, all four eyes squinting at me.
I don't like it here.
The bathroom voice is just enough to catch the attention of the parents, who look over to me. One gives me an apologetic smile. I smile back before returning my attention to the child. Why not? Doesn't it smell nice in here? A crinkling of the nose and hands clenched tight tells me the answer is no.
No, it smells too much. I don't like the smell.
It's a curious response. I don't think I've ever met anyone who doesn't like the smell of honey. There's a reason it's considered such a universal luxury and treat. One of the parents shake their head in my exasperation, but I consider my words for a moment before responding. It's certainly rare for anyone to openly dislike honey, but do they like anything else? Maybe they'll like it in time. It's alright to not like it. There's nothing wrong with disliking honey. Everyone has different tastes after all. I offer a child a small smile as I start picking up bottles and carefully arranging them in my arms, the glass gently clinking together. The honey in the bottles ooze with each movement, blustering against the glass and sending little glimmers of amber light glancing across every surface. Well, that's alright. There's nothing wrong with people all liking different things. The child gives me a hard stare, as if scrutinizing the sincerity of my answer. I'm not sure if I ultimately pass the test or not, since they quickly turn away and bury their face in their parents' clothes, hands thrust in tight at long folds of fabric. But as I start getting back to my feet, they pick up at me, teeth slightly bare and voice-based.
Yeah, that's right.
The parents titter at their brazen response while I fight back a smile. The child immediately seems embarrassed, cheek tinging blue as they hide back in their parents' clothes. I give the parents a nod to excuse myself as I finish gathering as many bottles as I can safely carry, then start heading back to the counter. Nyargh is busy in wrapping multiple packages at once, tentacles smoothly looping twine around fabric wrap bottle and tying a neat ribbon in just a few moments.
Guess you won that kid over.
I laugh shortly as I round the corner into the counter. I'm not sure about that, but they weren't upset with me, at least, so that was good. Nyargh gives a small nod, setting aside two finished packages as one.
That family comes here regularly. Kid always eat a little grumpy, so it's nice to make them any grumpier at least.
Is that right? Nyargh nods before returning to his work. and I turn my attention to setting the bottles down one by one on an empty shelf. It should be within easy reach for Nyargh, and I make sure none of them are cracked or damaged as I set them out, just in case.
Everyone has different tastes.
I hadn't expected Nyargh to speak up again, but he continued steadily even as his tentacles keep working.
In a store like this, it's easy to forget everyone's different. People here all say the same thing, that honey is good, that bees smell nice. So sometimes I like the reminder that everyone's different. And some variety.
This might be the first time I've heard Nyargh say he actually likes anything, especially something so mundane and cute. I can feel a grin tugging at the corners of my mouth as I nod. That sounds fair. Luckily, it doesn't take much longer to start the shop behind the counter. With these many bottles on hand, Nyargh should be able to see out the rest of the day without much trouble, I think. I dust my hands off before rubbing my back, double-checking the floor to make sure I haven't dropped any soap packets. With how far behind schedule I already am, it would be disastrous if I left behind a delivery packet and had to come back for it. Nyargh, I have to get going. Nyargh's tentacles stop moving as he turns to look at me with his full attention. It makes me feel really subconscious and my voice catches in my throat for a moment. Is that right?
Of course.
He gives a solemn nod in response.
Thank you very much, Phil.
Nyargh's voice vibrates deeper than usual. He tends to speak quietly, without much emphasis, but his words at the moment feel oddly weighty, like he's saying something he considers very important. I shake my head and give him a smile. It's no problem at all. I'm glad I could help.
You don't need to be so humble. I know you took valuable time out of your route to help me, and I appreciate it greatly. You helped me tremendously.
I'm reminded of the fact that Nyargh usually mans the store alone. Always. Even for those who have good energy and stamina, it's unusual for anyone to run a store completely alone. So maybe it means that much more for Nyargh that I decided to stay and help. I really can't afford to lose any more time, so I start adjusting the straps on my back and the folds on my robe even as I nod. Well, I'm really glad I could help. If you ever need any help on another day, just let me know. Nyargh gives an almost imperceptible nod, watching as I start to round the corner to leave, but stops me at the last moment.
Phil.
Yes? Perhaps sensing my need to leave quickly, he answers promptly.
I'd like to show you my appreciation with more than words. If you have time after you finish your route, I'd like it if you can buy the store afterwards.
It's a curious proposal. I've never visited Nyargh's store so late. I hesitate for only a moment before grinning and nodding. Sure, I can probably do that. Thanks.
Be safe. Good luck on your route.
Thanks. He sees me out without any more fanfare, returning to his work and only sparing one tentacle to give me a wave as I head out the door. As I exit the store, a fresh gaggle of customers approaches the door, no doubt looking to make some last-minute honey or bee purchases. As brushed as I am, I make sure to hold the door open for them before starting down the street. The sweet smell of honey accompanies for a few pieces before slowly loosening its grip on me, allowing the bite of plain air to return to my lungs, a reminder of the job I have to do. Still, as I quickly ramped up into a steady gallop, I'm briefly reminded of the way Nyargh had thanked me, the deep rumble of his voice, the intense focus with which he regarded me, the gravity of his words. Salt delivery is such a routine job that few people appreciate it on a daily basis. So being thanked so sincerely for anything feels unusual, in a good way. The thought that I was able to help Nyargh in such a meaningful way gives me a warm feeling in the pit of my stomach, and my face quickens as I went through the scattering of people on the street. I should keep up the good work so I can end the day feeling good. Time to focus on my route.
Thanks, Lou. Seems like you had a busy day, huh? You cut it really close.
Yeah, things have been a little hectic today.
I can imagine. Since tomorrow's the big day, you know. Good work. You should go rest up.
Thanks, I will. Have a good night. You too?
Even smiling feels exhausting after a long day, but I still make sure to wave as I jot up, pawing at my back to make sure all my deliveries have been taken care of. All done, and with barely a minute to spare. I really did cut things pretty close. But at the same time, I don't regret it. It feels like what happened today was pivotal and absolutely worth a bit of extra running. I end up taking the long route back home, backtracking a little bit. I walk past the Overlook office, which continues to watch silently over the city. The sparse eyeballs lazily cast over the landscape, though they blink slowly now and again, as if growing tired. I cut through the park. The atmosphere here is different after dark, the spindly trees casting twisting shadows across the uneven ground. The air feels colder too, and it feels different without Bratton's boisterous presence walking by me. I'm feeling quite exhausted by the time I make my way past the row of stores. My feet feel sore, a hot ache working its way through my ankles and up the length of my legs, all the way to the pit of my stomach. Even my arms hurt from bracing against the ground. I thought I'd long since grown used to the physical strain of running my runs, but today has certainly been a long day. My mind is occupied keeping tally of how many different places my body aches, and I almost walk right to the end of the block before the warm glow of a store window catches my attention. Nyargh. His generous invitation raised to the forefront of my mind, of course. How could I have forgotten? Even the exhaustion seeping through my body is briefly forgotten, replaced by a small, warm thrill working its way outward from the very core of my chest. I'm a little excited. Almost every other store is closed by now, the lights dimmed. Though a few remain open, I can see the owners bustling inside, neatening up their displays to close up for the night. Nyargh storefront is the only one still lit, the warm glow of honey lights filtering out past the glass and spilling onto the ground below. As I draw closer, I can see the faint movements of a few restless bees moving about in their cages, but the store is otherwise empty. The small, handwritten sign on the door has been flipped from open to closed. Maybe Nyargh also forgot? I drove towards the door, trying to peek through the little window to see if he's inside, but it's once open before I can get that close. There you are. I was worried I'll make you too late to finish your route. I shake my head, smiling. It's kind of him to worry. I managed to finish it on time, though it was admittedly a close call. Today's been an interesting day, but I'll be happy if I don't have to run that many deliveries again in one day. Nyargh nods sympathetically before holding the door open wider. The smell of honey comes wafting outwards, and I can hear the faint jittering of a pair of bees arguing with each other. Some of the ache in my muscles seems to melt away already, and I eagerly stumbled forward through the open doorway. He's not. Don't mention it. I've never seen Nyargh's store so empty before. The atmosphere feels completely different, now that it's just the two of us in here. Much more peaceful. Nyargh let most of the bees out from their cages to roam. Now that the floor is empty and there's less danger of them getting squished or trampled by customers, and it's a pleasure seeing them bumble about. Some cuddle together in a corner, dozing. Others wander about, chittering at each other and exploring familiar territory. A bear near the entrance are fighting, clumsily swiping at each other with their legs and making angry buzzing noises. Nyargh coolly separates the arguing bear, taking one under a tentacle on each as he passed by. They calm down quickly. It feels so different here after closing time. I state what must be the obvious, but Nyargh still humors me where I nod. He leads the way to the back of the store, past rows of empty shelves and open cages. A few bees have opted to remain in the cages, sleeping or cleaning themselves. One chirps at me when I approach, and I make sure to give it a pat on the hand as I pass by. There's a door at the far end of the store, in a corner that's not immediately visible from the entrance, and Nyargh pulls it open. Just inside the doorway is a hanging curtain of yellow beds, providing one more layer of protection between the storefront and what must be Nyargh's private area. Go ahead. A pair of tentacles reach over me to pull aside a few strands of beds. They wrestle against each other,
giving up a faint smell. It's pleasant, like honey, but more muted and with the undercurrent of something woodsy and natural.
They're made of beeswax.
Nyargh must have noticed me looking at them curiously, because he gives a quiet explanation as he shoves the strand of fuzz over his tentacle.
The smell is a little more mellow than honey. Helps me calm down after a long day.
They're great. Indeed, the little hallway past the doorway feels calming to walk down. The air still feels warm, but without the intensity of the storefront. The lights are dimmer, the air less saturated and sweet, and the bustle of streets outside feels further away. A small stairwell reaches up to the right, but Nyargh gestures me past it, towards an open doorway at the end of the hallway. And as I step through the open doorway, I can't help pausing and blinking. Nyargh's private quarters aren't quite what I imagined. Definitely a pleasant surprise.
Oh, it looks nice, very comfy.
And red.
Suitable to the color scheme. Go ahead and take a seat.
I sink into the plush seating, feeling the material compress under my weight. There's a natural warmth to the material, and the way it moves around my body is wonderfully comfortable. I find myself giving a content sigh as I lean back, enjoying the way the seating gently holds my weight, swaying gently. Nyargh takes the chance to deposit the 2 bees he's been carrying into my lap. They seem to have forgotten all about their little spat during the short walk from the storefront, not content to sit next to each other. One promptly begins sprawling around the couch, Anthony batting over the material in search of the most comfortable spot to sit. The other seems happier sitting where it's been placed, starting to room itself with small humming noises. The rhythmic flicker of feelers and wings over my skin tickles.
Let me go get something to drink.
Nyargh heads towards the doorway at the end of the room, and I make a cursory move to sit up. Should I help?
I can do it. You should relax for a few minutes.
Admittedly, I'm feeling so comfortable at the moment that the prospect of getting up isn't terribly appealing. I sheepishly nod before sinking back into the couch, feeling gentle vibration against my thigh as the 2 bees hum. This might be my first time in Nyargh's private quarters, but the atmosphere is incredibly comforting. I'm not usually the type to immediately feel comfortable in an unfamiliar environment, but I can't feel any of that usual tension when I'm sitting here on Nyargh's couch, where the atmosphere is sweet and cozy and warm. Past the doorway, I can hear the gentle sounds of a heating organism rumbling to life, followed by the low drones of Nyargh's voice as he convinces it to quiet down. The wandering bee threatens to slide up the couch in search of something, so I absently pull it closed, nestling its fluffy body against my own. The bees buzz only briefly in protest before seeming to settle down. The one in my lap too has fallen into the steady rhythm of grooming itself, and the tickle of its antennae brushing across my stomach now and again is comforting, in a weird way. It feels nice. It's the smell of honey from somewhere very close that pulls me back to consciousness. I open my eyes to sight of Nyargh settling himself into a chair across from me. Sorry, I didn't mean to fall asleep. My voice comes out groggier than I expected, and I can feel my cheeks heat up as I sit up and rub my face. The bee that I've been cuddling buzzes in complaint at the fact that I dare to move, but it quiets down again once I'm settled into position.
Don't worry about it. You look exhausted. It must have been a long day for you.
I guess you can say that.
Oh, so cute.
Aww, bees.
Oh, the bee ate the cookies? Interesting.
I rub my eyes to chase away the last feathery tendrils of sleep, and then realize that Nyargh placed a small but elaborate tray on the table between us. One of the bees eagerly crawls over, snatching up something from the small splatter of snacks before either of us can stop it. The biscuit crumbles in its mandibles, stopping it from gobbling up the whole snack, though, and I gently tug it back into my lap. Nyargh nods approvingly.
Thanks. They get real eager about stealing food when they can.
I can imagine, but how good it smells. What is it?
Do.
You didn't need to make it so elaborate. I do the polite thing, adding more test, but I'm sure there's an unhungry edge to my expression that betrays my words. Everything smells marvelous. Steam walls from the teapot when Nyargh lifts the lid to check the color of its contents, filling the air with a sweet, pervasive warmth. I reflexively take a deep breath, and the tiny pads of moisture cling to the inside of my nose. My head almost feels a little fuzzy, and I watch, transfixed, as Nyargh begins pouring out the tea. It's viscous, light resap, amber, with a tinge of reddish brown as it pours in the cup. It smells delicious, but not as cloyingly sweet as I expected from the steam.
Go ahead.
I must have looked awfully eager, because Nyargh gestures were identical before pouring his own cup. Thanks.
That's interesting. A viscous type of tea? That's a bit different.
I place the cup to my lips and take a small sip. A dark, bitter taste spreads across my tongue first, though it seems traced after by a wonderful, mellow sweetness that does just enough to take the edge off the flavor. The two aspects of the tea work in perfect harmony, making it a drink that's awfully hard to put down. I look up to see Nyargh practically dumping a cupful in his mouth, then pouring himself another cup. To be fair, the cup does look rather small in his tentacle, and compared to the bulk of his body. What kind of tea is this? I'm sure I've never had it before. It's amazing. Nyargh gives a small nod, as if approving of my delight.
I brewed and warmed tea. The leaves are steeped in honey for a long time before being brewed. Gives a nice balance of flavors.
He drinks more slowly from his second cup. A deep, rumbling noise buzzes from the core of his body, as if in appreciation.
I add a little honey to it after brewing. I hope it's not too sweet for your taste.
It's wonderful. I blurted out the answer immediately because it's true. But this looks expensive. You didn't have to. Now that I look closely, I recognize the snacks as salt biscuits, salt and bone powder blended together. The baked to create a light and crunchy texture. A sheen of amber honey covers the tops. They look mouth-watering, but the fact that salt biscuits alone are a fairly pricey treat gives me pause. Not to mention all the honey. Even if Nyargh owns his own bee store, it feels strange casually eating this much honey. But Nyargh only shakes his head.
It's my treat, though. Eat as much as you like.
There's a pause before he continues, as if he needs a moment to choose his words.
I'm sure you've noticed, but it's not often that I ask for any help around the store. I don't need it often, so I've thrown quite bad at asking for it. So I appreciate your willingness to help at the last minute.
You do look pretty used to handling everything by yourself. It must help having so many hands. I give him an admiring smile before finally pick up a salt biscuit. I would have been loath to admit it, but my mouth had been watering the moment I spotted them, and as long as I have Nyargh's blessing, I'm excited to try one out. But even you would have been overwhelmed on a day like today. I'm not sure I've ever seen a crowd like that. Anyone would have needed your help? I take a small bite of the biscuit, closing my eyes as I savor the flavor. The familiar, sharp sting of salt is undercut by the softer, chalkier taste of bone powder, brought together by the sweet notes of honey. I find myself shoving the whole thing in my mouth without a second thought. It's the most delicious thing I've eaten in a while, I'm sure. It's the only feeling of biscuit filling my mouth that reminds me of my manners, and I cover my mouth with my hand as I draw, trying not to drool from the corner of my mouth. But when I glance up, Nyargh seems lost in thought, his various mouths closed or slightly open, his tentacles holding his teacup aloft before him but not moving. I'm halfway to surreptitiously reaching for a second biscuit when Nyargh suddenly speaks up.
I was surprised. I didn't expect that many people.
Really? I start to pull my hand back, but Nyargh picks up the biscuit and hands it to me in my stead. I feel a little flustered and try to assuage my gluttonous guilt by giving a few tiny crumbs of the biscuits to the bees shuffling curiously around me. Nurse told me before that bees shouldn't eat too much salt, but tiny pieces at trees is permissible. The bees jitter in delight, eagerly crunching on their trees.
I expected a crowd since their clubs is coming up, but I didn't expect it to be that big, especially with my reputation.
It takes me a moment to figure out what he means. Oh, you mean those people who gossip about you? Nyargh nods, finally moving his teacup and pouring its contents in one of his upper mouths. The tongue emerges afterward to lick his lips, one of his other mouths smacking his lips in satisfaction. He moves to pour himself a third cup as he speaks.
I don't trust it, but I know what people say about me, and I figured it would keep people away from the store, but that didn't seem to be the case, so I was caught off guard by how many people came by today.
I take my time with my second biscuit, chewing slowly. After overhearing the gossipers so many times, I can easily recall what they said amongst themselves. Something about not actually sucking the energy out of people. I have to fight the urge to roll my eyes even now. I instead focus on considering what to say. I joke, swallow, then take a sip of my tea as I organize my tasks. I don't believe those rumors. The people who gossip are just inconsiderate jerks. People are too quick to gossip about things they don't know. I don't think it's right to gossip in the first place, and don't believe any of those rumors. I rearrange the words in my head once more, considering them carefully. I think people are just too quick to gossip about things they don't understand. It's not right of them to spread rumors like that, but I also think it's not really worth paying attention to. Especially since I don't think anyone will believe rumors like that. Nyargh pursed his lips in seeming thought for a moment before giving a small nod.
That's quite a level-headed assessment.
I'm not sure if it's meant as a compliment or not, and a twinge of unease ripples on my spine. Well, that's not to say you're wrong to be frustrated or feel annoyed. I think that's perfectly justified. I've never been in your position, not even close to anything like that, so I can't pretend to understand how you feel. But I just meant, I doubt those people are even thinking very hard about what they're saying, or they wouldn't be spreading such ridiculous rumors. I don't think they mean you any ill, especially if they're still at your store considering buying things from you. So if they're just saying empty things, then it's not worth the effort of worrying about them. It's sort of beneath you, in a way.
Well,
I must have been a little flustered, because those words spilled out before I could stop them. Nyargh's interruption is gentle, but firm, and it holds me in my tracks.
I understand what you mean. Thank you.
It must show in my face that I'm not entirely sure if those things are warranted, because he continues patiently.
I think you're correct on all fronts. I do feel frustrated about those people. I do get annoyed at them. But I also know it wouldn't be right to condemn them for something that ultimately doesn't affect me very much. I don't know of the circumstances after all. Who knows? Maybe those people have been hurt in the past by something or the other. It would be insensitive of me to assume that they have cruel intentions when they're only being wary.
I nod. It's very much like Nyargh to consider the matter so calmly and maturely.
I dislike people who are quick to judge others, you see. And it puts me at ease to see there are people like you who try to see things from multiple perspectives. So thank you.
Nyargh's overt praise is enough to make me feel a little embarrassed, and I can feel a faint heat rising in my cheeks, even as I shake my head. I didn't really say I'd do anything special, but as long as you feel better, I'm glad. For what it's worth, I don't think you would ever do anything to hurt people, so I would never pay attention to those sorts of rumors. I believe in you. Several of Nyargh's mouths widen into toothy grins, and before I can react, he reaches out with a pair of tendrils, winding them around me. The grooves are warm and gentle, but without being rough, molded perfectly around my shoulders as he gives me a hug.
Thanks, Will. I truly appreciate it.
The tentacles squeeze once more, pulsing against my arms, before withdrawing. I'm not sure I've ever seen Nyargh make such an affectionate gesture before. and it feels all the more special. Perhaps because it was such a rare moment, Nyargh looks somewhat embarrassed, clearing his throat as he withdraws his tentacles.
But Bill, as much as I appreciate your trust, I can't pretend to be totally innocent.
Huh? For one moment, I wonder if the rumors are true. Nyargh, perhaps sensing my hesitation, shakes his head.
The rumors aren't true, of course. But I do have an idea of where they originated. Gossip usually don't spring out of thin air, after all.
It's somewhat of a shock to hear. Lighten the mood, remain silent. Ask what happened. I mean, if he's willing to talk about it, then it's better to know. Surely there's a story here. I should ask for clarification before making any assumptions. Can I ask what caused the rumors then? There's a pause before Nyargh nods.
It wasn't anything grand or dramatic. But you know how rumors can be. People like to gossip, and rumors tend to change as they pass from person to person. Something small and insignificant can grow rapidly under the right circumstances.
Nyargh gives a small sign. One of his tentacles rises to neck at a spot of soft flesh between two of his mouths.
I trust you're not the type to misunderstand what I'm saying.
I nod quietly. Still, Nyargh hesitates for a moment longer. One of the bees that had been keeping me company seems to be growing bored, as it begins crawling away in search of excitement. Nyargh picks it up in two of his tentacles, stroking its back to calm it down. It responds by giving a long, low drawn-up contentment, vibrating away in his hands, thoughtfully brushing the end of his tentacle against the bee's neck. Nyargh wears through his thoughts for a moment longer as I wait patiently. It's rare to see Nyargh open up about himself like this, so it must be something he's deliberated over for a long time. I don't want to rush him.
I dislike the taste of salt.
Oh. My first thought is that it?
Do you find that anticlimactic?
Nyargh's voice is quiet and calm, his hand continuing to stroke down the beast's neck, as if to keep himself anchored. No, it's not that. I guess I did expect something a little bigger, if it was the start of all those rumors about you. After all, the rumors are a little nasty, and your reason seems pretty innocuous. But if I think about it, I guess it makes sense that people might fixate on it. Because we all need salt to live. Without salt, we wouldn't be able to sustain ourselves. Even the hardiest individuals I know wouldn't be able to last more than 2 weeks without at least a little salt, whether it's from a block of salt or an indirect source. So for someone to actively dislike salt would be quite strange, like someone who actively dislikes breathing.
I've always known as a rather unusual trait, though there are few in my kind, mostly my relatives, who have always been helpful to keep it discreet. But for all of us, it gets out sooner or later.
He sighs, sounding somewhat exasperated. A bee in his grip looks up. Its buzzing comes to an abrupt stop. Hands to it. Nyargh realizes he stopped his batting at the bee, and promptly resumes. Only then, the bee settles back down, spoiled and content. Trying not to be distracted from the topic at hand, I sit forward. Can I ask how people found out?
It would be fairly obvious if anyone were to see me eating.
Of course, with our many mouths. Any sign of a frown or primers would probably be pretty evident.
Which is why I always eat in private, of course. But an impatient customer once pushed into the store during my break. I must have forgotten to lock the door. He promptly saw me struggling with my salt and asked if something was wrong. I'm sure he meant well, but I was startled and handled the situation poorly. I said the salt had gone bad, but it took a taste and quickly assessed that the salt was fine. It must have been able to guess that it was a deeper, more fundamental issue that I had with the salt. Rumor of it spread quickly afterward. I know him. He was not a malicious person, but secrets can rarely remain secrets for long. He must have blurted it out to someone as something interesting he recently found out.
He sounds again, But this time, he remembers to keep petting the bee. It continues to pirate, perfectly oblivious to its master's aspirations. I, however, can't claim to be so ignorant, so I deliberate over how to respond. And that should be a good pause in our playthrough today. So today we helped out Nyargh in the very crowded section of his work because of the eclipse. And after our work and deliveries, we met him again after in his store and had a little chat over the tea and biscuits, which is very delicious, by the way, according to description. I mean, we have Bill there really enjoying the cookies, the biscuits. And we found something, the truth of the rumors, which I cut out at the point of how to react to that, but I'm sure it is going to be fine. So what a surprise though, to have someone who dislikes salt, which is an essential food or something, substance in their people's life in this kind of world. So, well, at least he ate those, but just don't like them very much. That's all. So that should be it for our playthrough today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next playthrough of Meeting in the Flesh. Bye bye!